John McDonnell writes for us here on Flow News 24, and he says this morning, at the end of last week's parliamentary session, the Senate voted unanimously for a motion calling on the government to establish a royal commission into veterans and defence suicides. The government senators were in a clear minority and decided it wasn't worth the political ignominy they would incur if they opposed the bill. The government's preferred position is to have a standing commissioner who would have all the powers of a royal commissioner and who would exist in perpetuity to examine every suicide on a case-by-case basis. Veterans organisations oppose this because they want the public attention and broad recommendations a Royal Commission would deliver. The Prime Minister is boxed in. The motion will come back to the House of Representatives this week, and crossbenchers Bob Katter and Craig Kelly have said they'll vote for it. In addition, several national backbenchers have said they will cross the floor. Rather than lose a vote on the floor of the House, the government will probably pass the motion on the voices. And this will still leave the timing of the Royal Commission in the hands of the government. And the tip is that it will be announced close to the election. The motion notes Australian Defence Force personnel have a suicide rate of less than half that of the wider community while serving, but nearly twice that in the general population once they leave the Defence Forces. It calls on the Morrison government to establish a Royal Commission into the rate of suicide among current and former ADF personnel. Tasmanian Independent Senator Jackie Lambie has been among the loudest advocates. She said literally every single senator, Labor, Greens, even crossbenchers and the government senators just voted to call on the Prime Minister to establish a Royal Commission into veteran suicide. Bob Katter said if any of the government's North Queensland MPs are thinking about voting against this Royal Commission, then they should think again. And furthermore, my electorate has many retired soldiers and naval personnel in the southern Cairns, Eyre and Townsville Northern Beaches. I'm losing sleep at night over this suicide crisis. Ironically, one of the recommendations likely to be put forward by a Royal Commission is the establishment of a standing commission to examine each veteran's suicide on a case-by-case basis. At the moment, there is no proposal before Parliament to establish a standing commission. The government quietly shelved plans to do that late last year. Legislation underpinning the national watchdog was withdrawn in December after failing to secure support from Labor and the Senate crossbench. Opponents described the proposal as a glorified coroner, and they argued it fell far short of what is needed to address the unacceptably high rates of suicide among serving and former ADF members. And in the context of this article from John, if anyone is experiencing any issues right now, then there are numbers that you can call. There is the SANE helpline on 1800 187 263. Lifeline is 131114, and there is the men's helpline too on 1300 789 978. Important to consider these things in relation to Anzac Day, which is not too far away. And it is important to note that with Anzac Day coming, that South Australia has proclaimed a public holiday on the Monday following the Sunday setting for Anzac Day, and will have marches occurring on the Sunday. Victoria is yet to state whether Melbourne will hold a march, and it is just 5 weeks away, less than 5 weeks away. Today there would be, in 5 weeks' time, a public holiday in South Australia for Anzac Day on a weekend Anzac Day setting for the first time, being pushed into Monday. Anzac Day still commemorated on Sunday, but a holiday for South Australians on the 26th, which is the Monday, but not in Victoria or New South Wales, incidentally, which is an interesting situation where public holidays, I wish they'd line up across states, and maybe there is a need to get that also clarified in the future. But on the story that John has brought us, I think the Royal Commission is something, but why did Labor oppose the setting up of a commission to look at each suicide case of an ADF person, when that is more likely to be one of the recommendations of the Royal Commission? It is politics, and it shouldn't be played with our defence personnel's lives, and ultimately they are serving to protect each one of us, and the times that we're in are certainly more significant than perhaps we have ever seen in our lifetime, at least those that were not around with the Second World War and the circumstances surrounding that. But in our generation, for those born after the Second Second World War. This is very much a time where ADF personnel need every resource that can be given to them, particularly when they return from combat or return from duty, in order to reduce this terribly high number of post-serving suicides. That number again, 131114.